I'm officially welcoming everybody to this book launch. It was so wonderful when I got the email from Becky to tell me about Judy's book. I have been a big fan of Judy for many years. I looked it up. You came to Agudath Israel in 1995. So we've been together since then. I've watched Judy be an outstanding mom, outstanding daughter, an outstanding wife. She was a student of mine. She and I have done things together that I taught in her house, we learned together, we've done lots of things, but seeing Judy blossom in the cooking was extraordinary. I have to say, like, I know the Essex Fellows has benefited from her cooking, her magazine and all that. I mean, I've seen it over the years, but to know that now we have a book version, it's just real magic. So I was thrilled to see Judy's journey into this, and I'm not surprised that she turned it into a mitzvah also. Leket is very dear to my heart also. I was telling Becky and Judy that in some of our Agudath Israel family trips to Israel, we have gone to Leket. I have picked lots of onions. And so, for whatever reason, in the summertime, it's onion picking that we get to do. So I'm like thrilled that we're here today launching this book. I'm also thrilled with Becky, of course, because anything Becky is part of becomes magic in our institution. And so for her to team up, for them to team up, it was just unbelievable. So we're very fortunate here to be doing the book launch, to be behind the scene, helping in any way we can with the fundraising for Leket. But just being tremendously proud of you, Judy. And on behalf of Agudath Israel, your home is yours. Some flowers for the book launch.
Thank you.
Of course, we're so proud. I mean, you know, we've had other authors in our building, but you know, this is a big deal for us. So, and thank you all for coming. It is being videoed, so I know it will be out into the website and it'll be going further, and so it's really very exciting. So I'm going to turn it right over to Becky, who's going to moderate the book discussion.
Thank you for your beautiful words, Susan, and welcome tonight. It's so great to be here with everybody in person and those watching on the recording. We're so excited. I am thrilled to moderate tonight's event. Judy will be answering some questions, and then we'll put it out to the audience. Whatever questions you have. It's been such an honor to work with Judy. We were thinking back, when did we start working together? And we remembered it was when Judy needed a logo for her website. She had built this beautiful website with so many, probably close to 1,000 at that point. Now there's significantly more recipes, but there was no logo. I think it was a whisk and maybe a spoon, and we needed something special. Well, that logo had 3 grandchildren, and now there are 4 grandchildren, and so the logo, as you see, needed to be updated. So that was several years ago, and it's an honor working with Judy and getting to know Judy and Steve, and I'll let Judy tell the story about how the cookbook came to be and the timing of it all and how Leket became part of the picture, but it's an honor to be working with you, and thank you for including me on this journey.
Thank you. Also, thank you, Susan, for your kind words, and it also for me has been such a pleasure to know you through the years and to have shared so many wonderful experiences. So thanks. And well, Becky, thank you for everything. Becky has helped me. Since I guess it was about 2019 where she worked with me to get a logo for my website, but she's helped me with my website, she's helped me with my Instagram, she's helped me with, I'm technologically, what is it? I'm technology challenged, so she's helped me with that, and she's done, an amazing job designing this book, doing the layouts, doing the formatting, and I provided the content, but she designed it, and she really did a super job. And there's nothing she can't do. I decided a couple years ago that I wanted to start doing some videos of some tutorials, and I spoke with a couple of people that were in film, that did film, and they both told me that this is the way they work, they come for the day, and and they recommend, and they're gonna come with a lot of equipment, and they recommend, because it's a whole day and it's all this equipment, that I at least have 3 recipes ready to do for the day. And I'm just one person, and I know that even just like from doing the challah video, I had to have the challah ready in 3 different stages. And I don't work for the Food Network. I'm not Ina Garten where I have like 3 assistants helping me, So I just asked Becky, I said, like, do you think you could just come? I mean, maybe just like video me for like an hour or 2, and she did. And she's done, how many videos have we done now?
3. We did how to make a perfect hard-boiled egg. Anyone know how to make a perfect hard-boiled egg? If you don't, go to Judy's website and watch the video. You will make the most perfect hard-boiled eggs for Pesach and all year round. Thanks, Judy.
Yeah, and most recently we did a challah tutorial, which is also on my website, and we're planning on doing another challah tutorial with my grandson this Friday. So she's become my videographer. So there's nothing she can't do. She's amazing, and she's also just done so much work to pull this whole Leket fundraiser together also, and I appreciate all you've done.
Thank you.
So, I think you wanted to know what led me to publish this book, and then and how to connect it to as a fundraiser for Leket. Well, the reason I wanted to publish this book is because I have been writing a monthly food column for the Essex Fells magazine since 2011, so it's been about 12 years, and I just decided that I wanted to start collecting the recipes, compiling them, put them into a book. Mostly I was just thinking for my family, to have something to pass down to them, and for family and friends. And however, as it got closer to the time where we were ready to publish it, this whole thing happened with Israel, the atrocities of October 7th, and I was just shattered. And I just thought, what can I do? What can I do? And I have a relationship with Leket, and I had gotten an email from them asking if maybe we could promote Leket and what they do through our social media. And I just said to Becky, why don't we, of course I'll do that. And Becky did that for me because I don't even know how to do that. but then I said, why don't we just, when we get this book printed, why don't we just donate sell it and donate all the proceeds to Leket? And that was kind of helping me feel like I'm doing something positive about what's going on, about all the negativity. So that's, that's how we ended up, printing this book and then using it as a fundraiser for Leket.
It's incredible. I think I've been feeling, and I'm sure many of you have been feeling, I want to be there. I want to be hands-on. What can I do to help? And when you're supporting this fundraiser for Leket, they not only provide hundreds of thousands of meals to soldiers, to displaced families, but they're also really, really involved with the farmers and preventing food waste. And so Susan was talking about harvesting the onions. As we know, they need so many people. And your donations go directly to all those things. So when you'll see, we have a few of these floating around. Here are, I can give this to you. You can pass it around. On the back, there's a description about what this particular fund that Judy's fundraiser is supporting for the Emergency Relief Fund, and all of the areas that it covers beyond feeding, which you're doing. And that's part of who we are, right? As a people, we want to provide sustenance, and so you are by supporting this fundraiser. So what is your connection to food and cooking, Judy?
Yeah,
How did it all begin?
Yeah, it was just always there, from the time I was a child, from my first memories. Food was very important to my family. Both of my parents were Holocaust survivors. And my father had this saying, he always said, I would eat just about anything but razor blades or potato peels. Mm-hmm. And why potato peels? Because the potato peels reminded him of his meager sustenance while he was at Auschwitz. So that was my dad. And my dad also, just along those lines, he would never let me throw food out. So even if something had been in the fridge for 2 weeks and it really was not really edible anymore, and he saw me going in the garbage with it, he would grab it from me and eat it. It was just very important. It also was important for us I was an only child, so the three of us sat down for a home-cooked meal every night at about 4:30. My father was in the wholesale meat business. Started 4:30 in the morning, and he came back for dinner at 4:30 in, the early evening. And so so food, it was just a way for us to feel gratitude and to be together and what else? And then, of course, so that kind of started my interest in food. And then I have a recollection of the first recipe that I ever took was I was visiting a friend. I was 15 years old, and her mom had made this delicious sour cream coffee cake, and I loved it. It was delicious, and I asked if I could have the recipe, and I remember them handing me a Hadassah cookbook. I remember it was pink. It was a pink cookbook. This was in the 60s. And they handed me a note card and pencil, and I wrote the recipe down, and I still have that recipe. Sour cream coffee cake. It's in here. It's in the cookbook. And it's my most popular recipe. It's one of my family's favorite cakes, and it's my most requested recipe. And I wrote this. That's how my cooking journey started, cooking baking. Later on, when I got married, my husband's mom had passed away about a year before we got married, and he would say, oh, like she made the best stuffed cabbage, or she made the best rugelach. And so I would just go out and I would buy books, and I would do some research and try to teach myself how to make, the rugelach, how to make the stuffed cabbage, and I was pretty successful at it, and that led to buying more cookbooks and more cooking magazines, and I started clipping recipes from newspapers and magazines and putting them in files, and I now have, I don't know, I have dozens and dozens of files that are just filled with, overflowing with clippings, that I haven't even gotten to yet. So I still have so many recipes I still have to develop. So that went on when I was first married, and then moving forward, that led to taking cooking classes and buying more cookbooks, and eventually, although I'm not formally trained, I feel like I've taken enough classes that I'm almost, it's like being formally trained. I've taken many, many classes. I started actually teaching classes at one point, and then that eventually led to my work on the magazine in 2011, and that which led to my website, which led to my Instagram account, and and the cookbook, and and the videos, and one thing after another. So that's
for those of you who don't know, Judy provides, for many years, a monthly food column for Essex Bells magazine. Judy is world renowned in Israel. For many years, you've been providing to Leket for their digital cookbook, to kosher.com. Judy's done Passover takeovers for a couple years now. And also in LA for the Jewish Journal. Judy is often asked for recipes for Deb Eckerling's column and the Jewish Journal. So coast to coast and around the world, Judy is known for her recipes and the fun twists that you put on your recipes. The cake that you were talking about in this cookbook, it's in the shape of a heart.
Oh yeah,
right?
yeah. So that so my sour cream coffee cake is in the shape of a heart. In this cookbook, however, the main way to make it is in a love pan. But talking about, yes, I do like to do things with a twist. For example, you see this is cheeseburger cupcakes and sugar cookie fries. Now this looks like it's not kosher because it's a cheeseburger, but it's not, it's a dessert. And the way that you make this is actually not that hard. You use two mixes. One of them is a yellow cake mix, one of them is a brownie mix. You use the yellow cake mix to make the buns, and you use the brownie mix to make the hamburgers, and I use yellow fondant to make the cheese. And it looks so real that people might think it's not kosher, so you may want to leave the cheese out so you don't freak people out. And so anyway, yeah, so that's kind of a fun thing to do, and that's a fun thing to do with the kids. My grandkids they just love to assemble them when I have all the pieces. Another fun thing that I do is cake pops, and that's on the last page here. This is another really fun thing to do with the kids. And what you do with this is, again, it's not that difficult. You buy a mix, and you also buy store-bought icing. and you put a certain amount of icing into the crumbled up cake that you've baked, and then you pull off like 1.5 inch pieces, and you roll them into balls, put them in the freezer, take them out, and then stick some lollipop sticks into the balls, and then dip them into, you can either dip them into chocolate, or you could dip them into candy melts, different colored candy melts. And this is something the kids really love to do. And I had a lot of fun with this for the magazine, because I put it into a clay pot, and I put some, I even forgot what it is now, but I put some, something on the bottom to make it look like it was dirt, which clearly it's not. I put a gummy worm on it, so it was really it was a lot of fun. It was a really fun, thing to do for the magazine for September, which is the month of back to school. So other things that I do with the twist, I have, like, for example, for Valentine's Day, 2 soups in 1 bowl with a heart crouton. 2 soups in 1 bowl. Here's a trick if you want to really impress people. You don't even have to make the soups yourself. You can go to a store and buy pre-bought, kosher soups. 2 different. Make sure they're contrasting colors. One is a light color, one is a dark color. Heat them up. Put them into 2 separate measuring cups, and pour them simultaneously into the bowl, and they'll meet in the middle. And it will look like, it will look like you're, like you're a very fancy chef serving 2 soups in 1 bowl. And you don't even, I like to cook the soups. I like homemade soups, but you don't have to. You could just buy them in the store. I'm just trying to think.
Those tips. There's another one.
Oh,
we have a special addendum for those of you here today. Your Hanukkah recipes.
Yes.
This one is a good tip.
Yeah, well, this is all you need to do. Like, if you don't really want to make soup ganiyot, all you really need to do is buy Pepperidge Farm puff pastry and just follow the instructions. It's very simple. Like, you use a donut cutter, or if you don't have a donut cutter, you could just use like a round cookie cutter and use like a pastry tube to cut the center out. And then you just basically you put them on cookie sheets, put them in the oven 400 for what does it say? I don't even know. Approximately, let's see, only 15 minutes. So they're very, very simple, easy recipe to do. Other things with a twist, I love using, I love using the produce of the season for my recipes. Like, for example, for Thanksgiving, I will, this is another favorite recipe. There's a soup that I make for Thanksgiving, chestnut soup, and my family it's their favorite soup. It's an amazing soup. It's delicious. It's very rich, and it's very time consuming, but it's worth the time and the calories. But I only make it once a year. But what I love to do for that is to buy a big pumpkin and either I'll hollow it out myself, or I'll have the greengrocer at the supermarket hollow it out, and I use it as my soup tureen and put my chestnut soup in there. Let me see, what else? Any other, let's see, let's see, 2 soups in 1 bowl, the pumpkin soup tureen. I use butternut squash, and I hollow it out. I use it as a vase. I use that, that's really more for my, for the photos, or I'll use it on a Thanksgiving table, or when I have guests over, and it really makes a beautiful vase. I put seasonal flowers in it. I'll use it. I'll hollow out an acorn squash. I'll use that as a vase. So so those are those are things that I like to do. Some other things with a twist, I don't know if any of you know this, that you can use a balloon to make like a tulip cup. So what you do is you blow up a balloon, and in the meantime you've melted, it could be either chocolate or candy melts if you want certain colors, and you take the balloon and you just kind of put it into the chocolate, and you move it side to side, front to back, side to side. You do that about 5 times because you want to kind of reinforce the bottom. And then you take the balloon and the chocolate that's on the bottom, which is sort of turned out to be in the shape of a tulip now, put it in the freezer, and 5-10 minutes, take it out, pop it with something sharp, and then pull out all the little pieces of balloon that are in there, and you have this beautiful tulip cup that you could use for ice cream. You could use for chocolate mousse. You could use for like M&Ms or potato chips or pretzels or whatever. You can. So that's another really fun thing that I like to do. Let me see what else. Red, white, and blue. Oh, and of course, this is not really. Well, I did. There was a challah that I did. I do a challah every Friday, and I have made my challahs in dozens of different kinds of shapes. My favorite shape is to make it in a Star of David bunt pan. So it's Star of David bunt challah, and it's beautiful. It looks like a Star of David. It's not in here, but it is on my website. And when I happened to make that particular challah, my family, my daughter and her husband were over, and her husband said, well, why don't you make French toast with it? So I cut horizontal slices. I had all these Star of David pieces of challah. I made some French toast with it. And you'll see there's beautiful pictures of it up on my website. And then my daughter also said, why don't you make like toads in a hole, which is cutting out a center into the Star of David, cut it out, cut out a circle and then cook a fried egg in the center. And that really was a big hit also. So that's another fun thing that I do. There's a lot of that, frolic and whimsy kind of stuff going on with my recipes.
Definitely, and so many neat tips. For instance, we were baking challah, and Judy said to me, would you like some ragalach? And I was like, sure, that sounds delicious. Next thing you know, Judy had in her refrigerator a piece of dough that was like maybe this size, like on a plate, in the refrigerator, ready to go. So when the grandchildren come over, or I come over, Judy cut it up, we rolled it, we put some toppings on, and 10 minutes later, we had the most delicious ragalach. It never occurred to me, I don't know, has it occurred to any of you, that you don't have to make all the dough that you prepare at the time you prepare it, that you can leave some aside and rolled out in the refrigerator, ready to go.
Yeah, so
I was blown away by just that.
Yeah, so that's actually what I started to do with any cookies that call for rolling the dough. What I've discovered is if I just try to bake those right away, I can't. They're too sticky. So I've started making the dough ahead of time, rolling it out to the right thickness as per the recipe. I usually put them in the freezer, and then when I'm ready to make my cookies, I pull them out. This is how I make sugar cookies. This is how I make the ragalach. And for Passover, there's this rolled out dough that I make that is chocolate shortbread. Bread sounds like it's not kosher for Passover, but I use matzah cake flour for the shortbread. And so that's all ready to go. It's all rolled out and ready to go. And all I need to do is take a cookie cutter and put it on a cookie sheet, and they're good to go. So that's a great tip. The other thing you can also do is, if it's not rolled out cookies, but you want to do something like chocolate chip cookies or honey cookies or ginger snaps, you can make the dough ahead of time and keep it in the refrigerator for at least 4 or 5 days. And then when you're on the day that you want to serve the cookies, you can just take it out of the fridge, roll it into the shape for the recipe, and then bake them, and they're fresh. So I like to do that. That's another thing I like to do. Do you want to talk about some more tips? Well, we talked about the eggs. Here's another. This is one of my most important tips, and that's test your oven. Get a thermometer and have your oven temperature checked. And you're gonna find that it's probably not gonna be exactly the way it should be. For example, I have an old chef's oven that came with my kitchen, and with the house in '94. And I thought, you know what? I'm never going to be able to replace these ovens. I'm keeping them. But I had them tested with a thermometer. One of them was 50 degrees over, and the other one was 50 degrees under. So when one of my recipes calls for 350, if I put it into the oven that's over, I put it at 300. And the other one, I have to put it 400 for 350. So I highly recommend that you check your ovens and the reason, and another reason that I recommend this is because I've had people, try my recipes and call me up and say, I followed all your instructions for cheesecake, and I kept it in the right amount of time, and I pulled it out, and the inside wasn't done. It was still, mushy. And, or the opposite would happen. I followed your instructions to the T, and I made muffins, and they came out burnt. And in both cases, I would tell them, check your oven. And in one case, it was too low, and in the other case, it was too high. So that's a really important thing to do. And one other tip. Here's another tip. If you're somebody that feels like you can only do a recipe if you follow it, you can't really get creative on your own. The way you can get creative is if you learn sort of the formula or the technique of a recipe. And I'll just give you an example how to make a vinaigrette. When you make a vinaigrette, it's usually 1 part acid to 3 or 4 parts oil. But the acid can be anything. It could be any of 4 different kinds of citrus juices. It could be any of, it could be a variety of vinegars, balsamic, apple cider vinegar, wine vinegar. So you can get really creative. And then, of course, you can add, sometimes I add some mustard, sometimes I add some honey, I add spices, and I add a variety of herbs depending on the mood that I'm in. But it can always, it doesn't, you don't have to follow a recipe to make a vinaigrette. You can make your own every time to kind of go along with whatever you're serving. And it's the same thing. If you learn a cooking technique, you can figure out how to make up your own recipes. There's a technique for braising, there's a technique for roasting, and so on and so forth. So,
amazing tips. Anyone going out to buy an oven thermometer? Maybe, Judy, you could talk us through about the layout of your book, why you decided to call it Seasonal Delights, and what the book encompasses, chapter by chapter.
Yeah, so I was writing a monthly food column, and when I decided I want to compile the recipes, I thought I really wanted to do it month by month. So for 2011, that year I actually have 12 recipes, and it was each recipe was for that particular month. There's a recipe for January, for February, for March. So a February recipe usually is like a Valentine's Day recipe. A March recipe usually is comfort food because it's still cold outside. So like a March recipe could be something like meatloaf, or sweet and sour chicken, or I have a really delicious pineapple and honey glazed corned beef for March, and so on and so forth. April recipes usually are spring recipes. So one spring for one spring recipe, one spring recipe I decided, okay, springtime is renewal of life. Let's do something with eggs. So I did deviled eggs, and I really got into the styling of it and the presentation. And I found that we have some antiques in my house, and I found some French majolica pottery that I have with little chicks hatching out of eggs. So I put that. Let me see if I can find a picture of that. Do I? Actually, that's probably here. Let me see. Chicks hatching out of eggs. Oh, yeah, here we go. Page 42. I could just show you this quickly. 42. See here? This is these are deviled eggs, and there's the French majolica with the chickens hatching out of eggs. So it's basically to kind of capture the feeling of the time of year it was. That's spring. I have another, the next year I did a recipe for spring. Spring makes me think of asparagus, so I did a recipe. I actually made a vase out of asparagus, and that's in here as well. So that was, that was the way I decided to compile this, like month by month, so I would remember what I was doing and what I was thinking. Just to give you another example, I started this in 2011. So in 2011, in December of 2011, I'm rereading this now, and I'm saying, oh my goodness, I wrote about the trick-or-treat snowstorm. Mm-hmm. Remember that? 2011, October, we had trick-or-treat snowstorm. And the magazine's publisher said, look, we're not expecting anything from you. We know you don't have any, we didn't have any power in Essex Fells for at least a week. We're not expecting anything from you. I said, no, I can actually do something, because even though I have no power in my house, my freezer's down, but I have a gas powered oven. And I had frozen doughs in the, in the freezer. The freezer was like not working anymore, but the stuff was still cold, and I was able to bake and come up with something. And the next year I'm looking at, and this is 2012, and that was the year of Hurricane Sandy. And I had the same thing. I had some pre-made dough in the freezer, and I had my oven, and I actually ended up making what I called hurricane biscotti. I was able to make some biscotti. So as I'm compiling this and going through these, it's just reminding me of what my life was like then, month by month. So that's why I decided to do it this way. It's kind of an unusual way to do a book, because usually they do it like by, appetizers, soups, everything is, combined together. And I do have that, appetizers and soups, but they're not, they're month by month though. So if you're looking for an appetizer, you're not going to find it in the table of contents so much as in the back, in the appendix, and the index. I'm sorry. Yeah.
We have a question.
How do you spell and what is Majolica?
Oh, Majolica. That's Majolica, French Majolica. It's just French pottery.
M-A-J?
Majolica, and it's I don't know if they're still. I think they're still making it today, but there is antique Majolica, and I think what we have probably was from the 1800s.
Oh, here, okay.
Thank you.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
So for many, 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 many years, we've been blessed with you sponsoring the Fella Ehrman Holocaust Yom HaShoah program, which has been in memory of your mother, Leket Shalom. I was just curious, did your mom have any influence in your cooking?
Oh yeah, so you know what, yes. So my mom, there were a few things that, she didn't have like a wide variety of things that she made, but the things she made, it was Ashkenazi cooking. Everything she made was really good. So she had that talent. She didn't do recipes. She said in Yiddish, ich shit and ich mish. I don't know if anybody speaks Yiddish here, but I pour and I mix. I pour and I mix. No recipes, no recipes. And so she made the most delicious matzo balls, chicken soup and matzo balls. It's not in here, but it's on my website. Nanny Fella's chicken soup, epic chicken soup and matzo balls. So she did that. She also made the most amazing gefilte fish, which her chicken soup I have been able to replicate. Her gefilte fish, I haven't been able to do that yet. And she also made the most delicious sponge cake, and there was this other dessert that she made that was my favorite, and that also I write about in, I think it's in here. I talk about it as my Proustian moment, my moment of my mother made this delicious butter cake that had streusel on top of it. And I would, when she left the kitchen, I would sneak in there and I would eat off all the streusel. And she would get so mad at me because the cake would look like a mess after that. But that was just, yeah, so my mom really, she didn't have a wide variety of things that she made. She didn't have a big repertoire, but the things that she made were really delicious, so she had that talent.
I'm so happy it's part of your book too. I'm so happy. But the website.
Yeah, it's part of the website. Nanny Fella's, I think she called it her butter cake, is on my website, and her Nanny Fella's epic chicken soup is also on my website. Find that out. It's not in here, but yeah. So interestingly enough, talking about chicken soups, are you familiar with the Colombian? I have this other soup that I learned to make in Florida, in Coral Gables, Florida, and I call it Colombian penicillin. And I learned how to make this probably in like 2017, 2018. It was definitely before COVID. My husband, we go to Florida for the winter, and my husband was sick. He had a flu-like illness, and we had become friendly with a Colombian couple. And she called and wanted to know if we could go out that night. And I said, no, Steve is sick. And like a couple hours later, she shows up on my doorstep with this soup. And it was It was a chicken soup. It was unlike, it was really, it was kind of similar but very different to the kind of soup that my mom used to make, because it had other things in it, like it had tomatoes in it, it had potatoes in it, it had turmeric, which is an anti-inflammatory. It had, and it also had cilantro, which I'm not a big fan of, but that's also an anti-inflammatory. And it had a few other things, and I wrote in a food column about it. It turns out that she had a family cook, and her family cook's name was Luzma. And I asked if I could come over and watch her make the soup, and I went over there one day, watched her make it, and now my husband doesn't even ask for my mother's soup anymore. When he gets sick, he wants Luzma's Colombian penicillin. So, and that's on the website also. And it's as a matter of fact, we have it in the house right now, not because either of us are sick, but because my husband just loves the soup. Yeah.
So leaveittoBubby.com if you've not visited. That's where all of these recipes are that Judy's referring to. Thank you for these great questions. Oh, we got another question.
What's your, you just mentioned spices when you were discussing the soup. What's your favorite spice to cook with, and what do you think is the most underrated spice that folks often overlook?
Well, my favorite spice to cook with, let me just think. I don't really use like a lot of like unusual exotic spices. I use a lot of garlic powder, I use a lot of onion powder, salt and pepper, and I use turmeric. Steve, my husband, really, really loves turmeric, so I have been using that a lot. I've been actually I did a little research on turmeric and its anti-inflammatory properties, and I started making turmeric tea with it. So what's the most underrated spice? Maybe turmeric. I don't know if people, I had never used it until 2017. I'd never used it. I think it's a great spice.
So we want to leave time. There are desserts. We can't have a cooking event without some desserts. And we have cookbooks here, and thanks to so many of you in the room and so many others, Judy originally had set the goal for this fundraiser for $10,000, which just a few hours ago she achieved. And thank you so much to everybody who's contributed. And if you'd like to buy a cookbook and have Judy sign it, we have many here. You can just scan the QR code, and 100% of the proceeds go directly to Leket. So thank you for being here. Are there any other questions?
So what's your favorite thing to eat?
My favorite thing to eat, actually, is so interesting because I just did an interview for a podcast last week, and I was asked that, what's my favorite thing to, I think it was favorite thing to eat. I think it was, and actually my favorite thing is not something that I make, it's ice cream. I've always wanted to make ice cream, but I don't think it's a hard thing to do, but somehow I just never got around to it. I just really like, been eating a lot of Agudath ice cream lately, and anyway, so that's actually my favorite. What's my favorite thing to eat from what I make? In terms of cakes, it's probably, just trying to think, it probably is that sour cream coffee cake. In terms of soups, it's the chestnut soup. In terms of the beef or poultry, I'm not eating a lot of beef and poultry lately, but the pineapple and honey glazed corned beef is to die for. Even though I'm trying to cut out red meat when we make this, I do have some of that.
Thank you.
I just want to take a picture of you guys for the should get together, and I want to make sure Leket. Can I just move the Leket closer to this so I can see? Yeah. Okay. All right, guys. Terrific. Whoops. Oy. All right. So I want to be a big clap. thank you so much for the presentation, and I'm gonna go get my credit card real fast, so please buy books, and, thank you so much for coming out tonight, guys, and go and talk to the author and enjoy.
Thank you.
Be right.
No, I